Fructose is a monosaccharide. It's composed of 6 oxygens in red, 6 carbons in black, and 12 hydrogens in white. Fructose is a carbohydrate, which means it begins its digestion in the mouth with salivary amylase. However, the majority of carbohydrates are digested in the duodenum. This is because the pancreas emits pancreatic amylase, which cleaves long carbohydrate bonds into disaccharide units. From here, brush border enzymes can break these disaccharide units into monosaccharide units, which can get absorbed into the small intestine. The liver is where the majority of fructose is metabolized through a process called fructolysis. This happens in the hepatocytes of the liver. So here, fructose is broken down into F1 phosphate, and then eventually through another enzyme, aldolase B, to glyceraldehyde and dihydroxyacetone phosphate. And glyceraldehyde can get broken down into GA3 phosphate, and these two compounds can actually isomerize between each other. What happens next is that the GA3 phosphate, through a series of other reactions, can become glucose 1-phosphate. And the important thing about this molecule is that it can eventually get stored as glycogen in the liver. So this is a good thing. This is what the liver wants. You want to store your carbohydrates as glycogen because this is the stored form of energy. If the body does not need energy now, it can use it as glycogen. So now you might be wondering, well, why does fructose have such a bad reputation if it can get stored as glycogen in the liver? And the answer to this is it really depends on how you get your fructose. Because remember, 98% upwards of fructose gets metabolized in the liver. So you could end up overloading the liver if you consume too much of it too quickly and the body absorbs it too quickly. So this is why people recommend to eat fruit, because fruit and vegetables, I should add, have fiber, and fiber slows down the absorption rate, which will in turn slow the metabolism because the liver isn't getting all the fructose all at once. And by the way, this glycogen, the reaction will only go this way if the glycogen storage of the liver is already lowered. So if the liver has enough glycogen, the reaction is not going to go this way. Instead, what happens is that the glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate will become pyruvate. And if this cycle is familiar to you, this is the citric acid cycle. So you have the typical steps, but what happens is if you consume all your fructose all at once, like let's say from a sugary beverage, then this cycle is going to get overloaded in the liver, and you're going to end up producing a lot of citrate, excess citrate all over the place. So eventually the liver isn't even going to be able to go through with the entire cycle. Instead, you'll have a bunch of citrate left over, and the body recognizes this. So what the body does is it sends in another coenzyme factor, acyl-CoA. What acyl-CoA does is it can take the citrate and turn it into VLDL, very low density lipoproteins. What happens here is that you've turned a carbohydrate into a lipid. This can have many effects. One effect is that while you're producing VLDL, it's a lipid, it'll go through the lacteal system, the lymphatic system, and then the blood system, circulatory system. It'll get stored wherever the blood puts it, typically in visceral fat areas. So this is where typically people get visceral adipose. You could have the lipid could not even leave the liver, it'll stay in the liver, and you'll end up with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, where the lipids is just staying in the liver and it's not being transported out. So the other reaction is that the VLDL can also get transported to your muscles, where it can lead to insulin resistance, and this is the hallmark of diabetes mellitus type 2. So to protect yourself against these factors, what you would want to do is to not overload the liver and have a lot of citrate or other fatty acids produced in accumulation excess like this. So what you would want to do is ideally increase your fiber intake so that the liver does not metabolize all the fructose all at once. Another thing you can do is you can get more exercise, and this will deplete your glycogen stores, so the liver will have to use some of it to make more glycogen. So just stick to your fruit and veggies for the majority of your fructose intake.